Set Apart Podcast. Your friend Socrates here today. Today I have a really special guest, a good friend of mine. We met, I want to say last year, through some classes from Mexican consulate that they were done in my office. And from that point on, we just went on. And I saw him again this year with some couple classes. And then I asked him, hey man, how you been? I would love to have you here at the Set Apart podcast for you to share your testimony, right? And today I have my good friend Joe Diaz. Hey man, thanks
for the invitation.
Yeah, no, thank you for accepting it, man.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
awesome. And I know we were talking about Bibles, right?
Right.
I showed you my Bible with some tape, some stickers. I got this Bible, man. I want to say I was probably like 17. Somewhere between 15 and 16 years old. My friend, who was at the time my youth pastor, you know what? I was younger because he was my youth pastor, and I remember one day he took us to Biola University. That's where he was studying, and he bought this one in Biola. He bought it for me, and it's a Spanish and English side to side. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I have it all highlighted and everything.
I can tell. It's got some stories.
We got some stories, man. Some stories. But just like this Bible has some stories, and I have some stories, and the people watching us have stories. I know you got your story, Joe.
We all have a story, right? Thank goodness it's brought us here, right? So yeah, I'm excited to share it.
All right, awesome. So let's get to the good part. I know you have a story you were telling me about. I mean, you did share with me that you got divorced. Being Christian, I mean that would have been a big hit for you.
Yeah.
And especially for some people, when you're Christian, you go to church, like they see like the divorce part like being forbidden, and like, oh, what are people gonna think about me?
Right.
That I got divorced, I'm going to church. It can do a big it's a big thing, a big deal, right?
It's pretty traumatic. For me, all I can speak is for me is how life-changing it was to go through divorce. I truly love my wife. She became the mother of my kids, made me a father. I mean, I wanted to be married my whole life, right? But sometimes people take different choices. But for me, I think the advantage for me, Socrates, was that I was already walking with God. And so when that happened to me, I knew where to go. The old me would have gone and made a phone call and asked, my old friends for a good favor to go take care of certain things a certain kind of way like we did growing up. But thank God that he already had me.
Yeah.
And so I knew I had to run to God. And so I started, it's funny, I started doing a Bible study every Friday with my pastor, and he was just there to kind of let me vent and let things off my chest for a little bit, but that led to more men, some of the boys at the church, to read together, and then before you know it, 6 months later, we have a daily men's Bible study at church, and that ran for about a good 3 years, and I would drop off my kids. I remember this like it was yesterday. I would drop off my kids at school, and I would drive to the parking lot. I couldn't wait to see the pastors pull up and then drive in the parking lot and just get ready to read the Word, because I knew I had 3 pastors in that group. Right? Actually, no, I had 4 pastors. We had a Spanish-speaking pastor that's become a really good friend of mine now, and a mentor. I had 4 pastors that would tell me everything. It's not just reading the Bible, but it's actually understanding what's happening in that place in the Bible. And it just took me to a different understanding of the Word.
Yeah. But hey, I wanted to ask you this question. I know you mentioned that you went through a divorce.
Yeah.
But something like you said in your favor was that you were already walking, right, as a Christian, and that helped you a lot. But how was your own life, man? Who was Joe before coming to Christ, man? And I want you to share that a little bit.
Well, my parents are still married. I grew up with 2 parents, so I don't have a broken home story. Grew up Catholic. My mom is a devout Catholic. Love my mom. Think God picked the right parents for us, right? Because my mom is a praying mom. Every day she prays. But I grew up that way and just made some bad decisions as a young kid, got into gangbanging. early in life. And 35 years ago, actually last week was 35 years that I had gotten stabbed and basically got to the hospital dead. And they brought me back. I had just turned 17 when that happened, and just still was kind of that knucklehead growing up. That's the kind of the area I grew up in, and but it's my own decisions. I made that. Then I met my ex-wife, she already had 2 sons, so I started becoming a father figure early in my 20s, and then her brother was in jail, found Jesus, came out, and was living in a Christian men's home, and here in Orange County. And when he got out, he was inviting us to come and go to church. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go, quote unquote, support him to help him get through that. Never really considering, kind of growing up Catholic, I wasn't considering, going to Christianity like that. But as we started going to like a midweek service, Sunday service, the Spirit just grabs you sometimes. And next thing you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, that feeling, you can't explain it, but God just grabbed my ex-wife for a while. That lasted for a couple of years, and then he ended up passing away. He backslid and he passed away, but then I took a gap for a couple of years, and then, God's going to finish the work. He starts.
Oh yeah, he will always finish the work.
He does.
You mentioned something,
Okay.
gangbanging.
Yeah,
By your own decisions.
Sure.
Well, what made you choose that path when you were young? I mean, you had good parents, devoted Catholics, and usually when they're devoted Catholics, they go to church, they
Right.
pray, and all that stuff. I mean, that's all good, man.
Yeah.
But what made you choose gangbanging?
Well,
It's
I have
totally different.
I have like an older brother, and growing up, man, my older brother was a ladies man. He was baby face. He was kind of involved in that same stuff, and you're a kid. You want to be like your brother, right? He's 4 years older than me. I still look up to him, and so I think that's part of it. And then all my friends, it just in the late '80s, it just became a thing to do, right? And I was already doing it, so it just became even more popular. And all your friends are in it, so it's easy, right? The power of influence is easy to get involved. If all my friends were going to church, I would have gone to church, but all my friends were getting involved in the gangs.
Yeah, all right, so gangbanging,
Yeah.
you decide to join your friends because everybody's doing it, I want to do it
Right,
too.
that's part of it, yeah. Yeah.
And you get stabbed.
I do. Yeah.
Why? What happened? How did that happen?
Dumb decisions, right? You're up to no good. You're out there drinking, doing the things teenage boys do. And we just had the bright idea of let's go look for trouble, and we found it, and it just led to me getting stabbed, and but yeah, it's just one of those dumb decisions you make. Liquid courage is not a good thing, right? Liquid courage is when you drink a lot and you think you're 7 feet tall, right? But it just didn't work out. But at the same time, I think it was a blessing in disguise, because it got me to take a step back from being as aggressive and active in that type of lifestyle.
So you go to the hospital, you're stabbed, and you say you were going to the hospital, you were almost dead.
I arrived dead on arrival.
Oh, you arrived dead?
Yeah.
They revived you
They
there?
revived me there.
Wow, okay. So how did that change within your relationship with your family? Because I want to think that, devoted Catholics, right? You're the opposite. You're gangbanger. You still have a good relationship with your parents, or you have that constant
No, I had
argument?
a great relationship with my mom, still do. My relationship with my dad wasn't there. He wasn't as devout as my mom has been. Then as a teenager, of course I would blame my dad for a lot of things. Now as an adult, those are all my own decisions, right? Once I learned now as an adult that I'm only responsible for my decisions, I've learned that my dad didn't have nothing to do with it. It was all me, right? But they're married, right? Obviously, there's always going to be issues in a marriage, and there's no walk in the park, right? But my mom is devout Catholic. My dad believes in God, but wasn't a church-going Catholic. So.
But the relationship between you and your parents, you as a Catholic, right?
Yeah.
You're doing things that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
How is that relationship? You know, after you get
Well,
stabbed?
I never went to jail, never did that kind of stuff, right? I guess I was always lucky, I never landed in jail for that. See, it's hard for them to keep kids from doing that sometimes, you know, back in the 80s. It's not like now, right? Back then, you get on your bike and you take off somewhere, right? You're going to adventures. Nowadays, kids don't want to leave their room because they're on video games, right? So the 80s was a different lifestyle. Then, right, I couldn't wait to get licensed, my driver's license, and then now I have a license to drive a car. So it just opens up a new world to do things, you know what I mean? So sometimes they just trusted that we were doing the right thing, but we weren't. Yeah.
So, they revive you in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Did that change something in your life?
Gosh, in the beginning, it's hard because you still have all your friends, right? But my girlfriend at the time kind of took me away from it for a little while because I spent all the time I could with her. And then we broke up, and then kind of went back to my buddies, and then a couple years later, I ended up meeting my ex-wife, and you know, a few years after that, I think it pulled me away from hanging out like I used to be, which, you know, I'm still thankful that I met her because it pulled me out of that lifestyle. You know what I mean? So.
All right, so you're going through life, right? You got stabbed, now, you know, you go ups and downs. You're living a better life now. You met your ex-wife, right?
Right.
Is she the one who pulls you over to church? How did that happen?
No, it was her brother.
Her brother.
Yeah, her brother that
When you were telling the story.
got saved in jail. And when he came out, you know, he's the one that invited all of us to go to church. So we're just kind of going there just to be supportive, with no intentions of, you know, really attending. You know, one of the things that I remember back growing up, going back to kind of my youth and, you know, right after I got stabbed is, one of the things that always turned me off about born-again Christians, the only ones I would ever meet were the guys that get locked up. They're gangbangers, they get locked up, they come out, now they're called Bible beaters, right? They see you somewhere, they want to beat you with the Bible, and then next thing you know, we'd see them hanging out back where they were hanging out before they got put in jail. So I'm like, come on, that stuff doesn't work, right? So I already had to be honest, I had a little negative perception and opinion about born-again Christians. But this time it says my ex-wife's brother, I go, okay, let's be supportive, right? So going there with kind of my arms crossed, like, okay, let's just kind of get through the motions here, but God had a different idea, and He just grabs you, and then you start kind of understanding what God can do.
Right.
Yeah.
God changed your life.
That's it. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
All right. God changed your life. So, Christian, you going to church with your wife,
Yeah.
and then the divorce happens.
Yeah.
How did that hit you?
Gosh, man, it's just. I mean, have you ever lost anybody you truly love? And then now you see her with somebody new. So not only do you have the pain of losing your wife, your partner, and the mother of your children, you're also losing the family. Now we have a broken family.
Yeah.
And that's the most painful for me, right? I love my kids to death, but now I have to see her with the person she's with now, right? The person she left before, every time I have to exchange my kids with her. I was angry, I was brokenhearted, I was broken. Gosh, it was just a dark place in life. So I'm so thankful that God already had me walking with Him, had me learning His ways, and I ran to God for that, right? You know, every Sunday was a flood of tears, right, at church, because I was still hurting. I still was, you know, even though she was gone, we're divorced. The love is still there, right? But then, you know, as you start studying the Bible, one of the stories that kind of got me to really take the next step is King David, when he had the child with Bathsheba, and then he dies, and then David's just praying and fasting and all that for days and days, and then God says that child's not coming back, right? And he got up and he bathed himself, clothed himself, and sat down to eat, and it's really God saying, hey, that's not coming back. You have to move forward, and it hit me that one day. I go, okay. So now I have to start a new chapter, right? And so another pastor friend of mine, mentor, he says, Joe, most people want a breakthrough, but they get the breakthrough, but they go back looking for the old monuments of their life. And it's kind of like when they got out of Egypt, right? They always look back on how they had food and all that. So they complained. He says, Joe, so now you have to not look back at the memories and the monuments in your life, but you have to start this day forward, right? Allow God to start leading you to a new chapter and a new way of life for yourself.
Wow. So now that we're talking about new chapters, right? You come to Christ, you go into church, Christ changes your life, divorce happens, it almost brings you all the way down, but thank God you're a Christian, so you surround yourself with people. That's the importance of surrounding yourself with good people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Having a good people around you, because those are the ones who are going to help you out a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And now, how is this new chapter looking for Joe? How has Christ made your life meaningful, man?
Well, I just know that that where we're going is better than where we're at, right? Number one. But you can still, even though I went through a terrible experience with divorce, it can still be helpful, right? The last 15 years that I've been separated and divorced, I've been able to really help people understand that divorce isn't final, right? Divorce isn't the final end of your life, right? It's just something that happens in your life, but you can still have a great life, right? You don't have to live in remorse. You don't have to live in any ill feelings towards your ex-spouse or partner, but you have to just realize what you got to do. You have to take an inventory, what you have still in life, right? And so I took an inventory, right? And I realized, number one, I have God, so I'm always going to be fine with that. But then I still had my kids, right? And so my friend, this is to me is something he preached back in 2001, and it didn't come to mind until 2010, when now I'm with divorced with three young kids. And he says, Joe, so I hope this can help somebody out. He says, Joe, you have to make a decision what you want to be, because look, your kids are going to be going to school, playing sports, activities, right? And they're looking for a reference point. Okay, he says, he says, Uncle, what do you mean? He says, when you look at a herd of sheep, they graze with their head down. And when you observe a herd of sheep, they'll pop their head up, and as long as they find the shepherd, they keep grazing in peace. But if they look up and they don't see the shepherd, that's when the first one panics, and when the first one panics, the rest of them start panicking. That's how they get lost. Right? He says, so you are that shepherd and that reference point for your kids. So you have to decide if you want to be their reference point, because if not, they'll find it in gangs and drugs and sex and anything else they can find every day in their life.
Wow.
Because mom won't be that reference point. She's got a new love in her life. She's not going to really pay attention to the kids. So you have to decide that. And so how Christ changed me, he led me to make the decision to be a reference point for my kids. And I lived that, right? I've always shared that with people who are going through divorce, that they should be a reference point. And I always go back and I tell my old pastor and my mentor, I say, hey, I shared reference point with somebody today. And he's like, Joe, I think you're the only one that ever received that sermon that day, because you're the only one that ever tells me, right, to keep sharing that reference point sermon.
Joe, and I think you just spoke to the viewers too, because you don't really have to go through a divorce to be the reference point.
No.
You're a reference point right now.
Right.
If you're a mom, if you're a dad, you're a reference point.
Absolutely.
And you gotta do whatever it takes to make sure that when your kids put their head up, they see you.
Absolutely.
They don't see gangs, they don't see sex, they don't see pornography, they don't see none of that stuff. They see you. as a person. And even if you don't have kids, you got nephews, you got nieces, you got people that are following you. So we gotta make sure that we are a reference point.
That's right.
And if you are the boss and you have employees, you gotta make sure you're the reference point.
Good. That's
You know,
good, yeah.
so I mean, I do appreciate that, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna use that analogy in one of my sermons because you know, you just spoke to me, man. You just spoke to me because I'm one of those people that think that I'm a dad. I have an 11-year-old girl. Man, I love her to death.
Good.
I would do anything for her.
Yeah, girls
Right?
gotta
I will
be
give my,
awesome.
you know, I have a wife. I will give my life to her. I will, you know, everything. I have a son, right? And when I was growing up, my dad used to come outside and play with my friends. Marbles, you know,
Yeah,
we
for
play
sure.
marbles.
Yeah,
He
why
used to play robbers, hide and seek. He used to come out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would get a knock on the door, and my mom would open the door thinking that they're looking for me. No, they were looking for my dad to go play marbles.
That's
right?
cool.
Now that I'm a dad, and my kid starts to have friends, I understand what he was doing.
Yeah,
He was protecting his kid.
that's
He
right.
was making sure who's hanging out with me.
That's right.
Who do I have to be an alert,
Right.
right? That's wise. You know, that is really wise. You know, so we are a reference point.
We are?
You know, we are a reference point, and for those of you who are parents,
Yeah.
man, invest your time in your kids, man. Sometimes I'm here, I get up for work at 5, I'm tired, I gotta go home, pick up my kid, take him to soccer practice. Sometimes I gotta go pick up my daughter from dance, take her home, get my kid, take her to soccer practice. I get home till 7:38, man.
All right.
And I've worked here from 5 to 5, and I'm already tired, man. And I'm the only time I have to rest is at 8 or 8:30.
Well,
And I still gotta work a little bit on my
Yeah,
business
for
too.
sure, for
You
sure.
know, so I do appreciate you coming
Yeah.
to them, and you really spoke to the heart with that reference point, man. Awesome, man, awesome. Thank you,
well,
man.
that's thanks to my mentor, like my spiritual mentor. And I think once you find, you know, a mentor that can spiritually feed you, hold on to that person, man or woman, doesn't matter. Because you're gonna need you're gonna come across a situation or an emotion, right? Most of us run into emotions more than we run into situations. Emotions get us to situations, right? But I think when you go through that emotional roller coaster, it's good to have someone you can just pick up the phone and that person will answer the call and just listen to you and give you some word of wisdom and lead you with scripture and lead you to scripture. And so for me, I still have 3 or 4 spiritual mentors. They're all pastors, and they become some of my best friends because I don't want to miss the chance to seek God's wisdom through these men.
Amen to that, man. Any last words, Joe, to the viewers? Please let us know, man. Tell us.
The only thing I can say is being a reference point, you can only learn to be one when you have one. And for me, Jesus is my reference point, and I pray that you can also have Jesus as your reference point in your life, because he'll lead you in ways that you don't even know you're going to go in, but it'll always be the best way that you can actually go.
All right. Joe, thank you very much for
sure.
accepting the invitation. It was
My
awesome
pleasure.
having you here,
Yeah,
man.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you for watching, for staying here. I mean, I'm pretty sure the story of Joe referenced the analogy, you know, about being the reference point is going to touch your heart, is going to change your life. But let Jesus be your reference point.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
overall, let Jesus be the reference point. Till next time. Thank you.